Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Today I have a 3 looks 1 palette for you, and today we are going to be using the Juvia's Place Tribe palette. I put up in my community tab which palette you would like to see me use in a 3 looks 1 palette, and this was the overwhelming winner after my palette bingo, where this was like tied with the the ABH Riviera palette. I think a lot of people were like, you need to do this, but there were also some comments, first do the Tribe, then do the Too Faced chocolate bar. So I definitely will be doing the Too Faced chocolate bar at some point in the future, but today we are going to be playing with the Tribe palette. This will be the first look that I'm doing, and my aim with this video is not to only show you 3 looks with this palette, but to also show you some of my favorite eyeshadow techniques. So with each look that I do sort of like one of my signature looks. I have like 3 go-to ways of applying eyeshadow, and I thought I could showcase those in this video. So that's what this is. So I'm just going to zoom you in a little bit, and then we are going to be playing with these eyeshadows. So here we go with the palette, and for this first look, I'm going to be a very basic person, and I'm going to be using the browns that are in here. So my plan is to do a look with the browns, a look with the greens, and then of course a look with a little bit of a mixture of the two. So that's what we're going to be doing first. So I'm going to be starting with this sort of like pukey brown shade. This is called Ashanti, and I'm going to be putting that in my crease. And my favorite way of applying crease colors is by using a fluffy MAC 217. As you can see, this is a little bit dirty because I used it yesterday. So I'm going to be taking off most of the color with my little Catrice sponge thingy. And so what I feel helps when you apply crease color, especially with my incredibly deep creases, is if I look down a little bit and I sort of pull up my brow as well, so that I really have a nice smooth canvas. The minute I drop this, do you see what happens? If I lift it up, drop. You see how much of a fold there is? So if I really want to place shadow in there, I just need to make sure I can get there. So now that we have that shade on, I'm going to be using this lighter matte, like more orange tone shade. This is called Oromo, I think. Yeah, Oromo. And I'm going to be using that on a very fluffy brush. This is the Juvia Looks Defined Crease brush, and I'm going to really put it on that edge here to sort of make sure everything is nicely blended. If I don't do this, I feel that my eyeshadow looks a little bit like it's too far down. So I always like to go in with a slightly lighter shade, just on the edge to buff everything out. So now that we have our main setup of the look done, I tend to start with like this crease blending out thing with whatever look I do. That doesn't really change. Today I'm gonna go with the I'm in a hurry, I don't really have time to do a lot kind of situation. And for that I'm going to be using that middle like brownish shade. It looks like a gold, but actually it has a duochrome shift to it. So it is a gold, but it actually has a sort of like greenish shift to it, which makes this a very, very stunning eyeshadow indeed, very unique. So I'm going to be applying just this all over the lid with like a flat shader brush, and then I'm going to probably go in with my finger as well to make sure it's nice and intense. And I feel that this is just a really nice, quick and easy way. If I don't have a lot of time, then this is what I like to do. Now, I always feel you never really get the intensity of a shimmer shadow if you don't apply it with your finger. So I like to sort of apply a base with a brush, but then I like to do it like this. And as you can see, that just makes a huge difference. Now, if you want to, you could foil this as well and then apply the shadow wet. If I foil, I always go in those 3 steps. I apply it with a brush, dry, then with my finger, and then I foil it. But I feel that this has the intensity that I would like it to have. And that means that we can work a little bit on the lower lash line. So this is like a satiny, it's not really matte, it's not really super shimmery, but Curla is a really nice shade, I think, for the bottom lash line. So I always need to steady my lid because I have so much give there that if I just go in with a brush, it just won't go on. So I just want to stabilize my lid. So I won't be pulling on it as much. I just want to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now, because I feel that that's quite orange, and orange can make me look a little sickly, so I want to make sure I darken that up a little bit with the shade we started off with in the crease, and I think that will also nicely tie everything together. And because I want to make sure it's also nice and blended and smoked out on the lower lash line, I'm going to go in with this shade again. This is a Romo. I don't do this step every single day, but I just feel it needs a little bit more smudging there. So I'm going to be taking the Lux Crease brush by Juvia. This is a very fluffy brush, and I love this for like smoking out a lower lash line. And then we're moving on to the star of the show, at least in my book, and that is this shade right here. This is called Coro, and this shade is, again, it looks like, in the pen it looks quite boring, but if you swatch this, like, it has that green shift to it, so it's like a champagne with a green shift. And you will probably be seeing this shade a lot in these looks that I'm doing for you, because this is my favorite shade in the palette. It works on the lid, it works in the inner corner, which is how we're going to be using it today. But of course, when you pair it with some of those greens, it's of course going to be a really nice like topper shade as well. So I'm going to be using this in my inner corner today. All right, so as you can see, it adds a nice bit of brightness in that inner corner. You know what this shade reminds me of the most? Cube in the Subculture palette by ABH. Let's apply some mascara. So that is look number 1, and that means that this is going to be end of the first section of the video. Let's move on to look number 2. So welcome to look number 2, and I'm going to be doing an all green look today. So I'm going to be going in with this one, these 3, and again, that gorgeous shimmer that I used in the inner corner yesterday. And I think that I want to try something a little bit differently. I think I want to do a halo eye with this today. So that's what we're going to be doing first. I'm not really great at doing halo eyes because, again, I have a really deep crease. So if you really want to see the halo when I'm looking straight at you in the camera, you probably won't be able to tell anything, or I have to draw it all the way up to my brow here. As you can see, that comes down, and that's quite tricky to do. So I do a halo eye my way. Here we go. So I zoomed you in a little bit, and the first shade I'm going to go in with is this matte green here in the corner. This is Tootsie, and I'm going to be using my MAC 217 to do this again. So this barely shows up on camera actually, but I did bring it all the way up here. And you can't really see it on camera. You can really just see like a blotch of darker shade here, which is a bit strange, but in real life it looks a lot better than it does in camera, I can tell you that. So now that we have that bright green shade all the way up in the crease, I'm going to blend it out again like I did yesterday with the brown shades, and I'm going to go in to Masai, and with a fluffy Juvia brush again. I'm using the same brush as I did yesterday. So let me clean it off. And then we're going to go into that bright shade just to make sure everything is nice and blended. And because I feel I need a little bit more definition, because I definitely want to put this like deep shimmer on the lid, I want to make sure my crease is a bit deeper too. So I'm going to go in with this darker green. This is Sun, and that is what I'm going to be putting in like the lower part of my crease to really sort of give a little bit more definition. Right, so I feel I've got quite a good gradient. I can always go back in and like deepen it up a bit more and like blend in the other shades a bit more too. But I feel I've got a pretty good gradient of like something deeper going up into something brighter. So now it's time to move on to what I want to do on the lid. And for that, I'm going to be using a flat brush. This is a Sonia Kashuk 106, and I love this for like packing shadow onto my lid. And I'm going to go in with kubja. And I think what I want to do is put this on the inner and outer corner, leave a bit of space in the middle, and then go in with this Masai shade again to make sure there's a little bit of a colored base for this to look even more vibrant. So that's what we're going to be doing. So my camera cut off, so I don't know where I was going with this, but I just applied a little bit more of the green into both the inner and outer corners. Now with a traditional halo eye, you would probably connect these, but as you can see, on me, that's not really necessary, or I would have to bring the color up and like do a cut halo eye, but I find that not too flattering on me, especially because this moves. It's very difficult to keep that straight because I just have like a cut. So then I would have to go all the way from here, all the way down there. It's just not very flattering, and it's a bit too much, I feel. So I left a little bit of space there, but I do feel that I need to go back in with a little bit of my crease shade. So I like to sort of complete that halo a little bit, but I want to go back in with that darker shade that I used, Son, on my fluffy brush, and just make sure I sort of blend this a little bit as well, and just to make sure that crease is nicely defined. And now what I always find happens is that I run into a little bit of a space issue and a blending issue with this. So I'm going to try and see if I can get most of the pigment off. And then I'm going to go into that lighter shade again, this one right here in the corner. And I'm just going to try and complete that gradient again, just to bring some of that brightness back. And I find that as a result of doing this, and I need to grab my other brush again and that bright shade, I find that I also bring the shadow up a lot higher than I did before. I just like starting at like somewhere and then I adjust as I go along, you could say. And then I'm going to go in with a Juvia detail shader brush. This is a 237, and I'm going to be taking this very bright shade and I'm going to be putting that into the center of that halo. And also with this, I like to go back and forth a little bit between the shades. So I'm going to go back into kubja with my flat shader brush and make sure that's nice and intense again. And now I'm going to go in with this brighter shade, Coral, and I'm also going to be using this in my inner corner again. So I'm going to be doing this on the lid. And I feel that if it has a little bit more of a base, then it definitely changes a bit of color. Again, so that's really nice. And now I want to go back in with kubja again, just to make sure that this nicely works together. And I'm going to leave the lid for a minute. It's not finished yet because I do want to come back with a little bit of foiling and my finger and doing all that. So definitely want to intensify the shimmer on the lid as well. But I first want to do some work on the lower lash line. So with a halo eye, what you can do is you can choose to repeat the halo on the lower lash line if you'd like. And I don't really feel like doing that because I really want to make sure I have a lot of this kubja shade going on. And also I want to use some more Sun. So I want to go with a very smoky lower lash line. So I think I'm going to go in with Sun first and then see if I can fluff the shimmer on top. And now I'm going to be using an Essence Smoky Eye brush. I don't think they still do this, but this is one of my favorite brushes for the lower lash line. I'm going to be taking kubja again and smudging it along here to really make sure that that is nicely blended, but also a little bit more intense, and that there's a bit of shimmer going on. And now I do feel that over here, it kind of like stops quite abruptly before it goes up. And the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to use a little bit of, what is it called, Tootsie, and I sort of put that in here just to make sure that everything is nicely connected and there are no weird gaps. Now I'm going to go in with fingers first. So I'm going to be intensifying kubja again, but this time using my finger, and I'm just going to be using a little bit on my finger, and I'm just going to dab it on, and that instantly intensifies that shade. I always find that with a finger, a shimmer just goes on so much better. Really gently just pat it on. And this is just a really quick and easy way to get a lot more oomph out of your shadow, you could say. And then I'm going to use my other finger, and I'm going to be using Coral again and I'm going to be using that on the middle part of my lid. And as you can see, that intensifies the shade, and because it overlaps a little bit more, like I find this looks a little bit more blended than when I just use a brush. So it sort of overlaps a little bit with the other shades, and then you really see that nice like green tinge that it has. And now I'm going to foil this too. So I'm going to be taking Coro and I'm going to foil like the absolute like center of my lid, so that's even brighter and more intensified. So what I like to do when I foil shades is that I first put it on my brush and then wet the brush with a bit of Fix Plus. I don't like going into the pan with a wet brush because then I feel that the shade gets ruined and I get hard pan a lot more quickly. So 2 spritzes, and I'm really going to pack this onto the very center on my lid. And then the other side of the brush is still dry, so I'm going to flip my brush around and then use the other side for the other eye. And now I'm going to be taking my favorite shade again, Coro, and put that in the inner corner because I feel it also adds a really nice pop of brightness there. I'm bringing it a little bit further in as well to overlap a little bit with the green that I have on the lower lash line to again make that a bit brighter and a bit more poppy. So let me just apply mascara real quickly and then I'll be right back. So there you have it, the second look with the Juvia's Place, the Tri palette, an all green look using just the greens in this palette. It's a halo eye. I personally love this look. I really think it looks really cool. All those duochromes really come to life in this look as well. I love what this looks like. I really do. This is my favorite look that I do with this palette. But yeah, if you stay tuned and watch the rest of this video, I will do a third look for you in which I will be mixing some of the browns and the greens as well, because that's another option that I haven't shown you yet with this. So that will be the third look, which is coming up right now. And I am back with look number 3 with the Juvia's Place Tri palette. So let me zoom you in because the third look is going to be a mixture of some of the browns and greens that are in this palette. So let's make things up today. So for the third look, I also want to demonstrate a little bit of a different technique again. I'm going to be sort of using a couple of these shades to do a bit of like, not really a smoky eye, but that's what I like to call it. It's definitely a technique that you can use to make more of like a cat shape, which is something I haven't done so far. So what I'm going to be doing first is I'm going to be using this poopy brown color again, which is Ashanti, and I'm going to put that in my crease because I always start with the crease. Now I want to warm this up just a little bit, so I'm going to be going in with this matte, like orangey brown shade, and I'm going to run that through the crease as well. And this is called Oromo. So now that we have a crease shade going, I'm going to go in with my super wispy Juvia brush, and again this Oromo shade, and I'm going to run it as a transition just above. And now I'm going to be taking a pencil brush, and this is the Petite Crease brush by Juvia. It looks very dirty, but again, using my little color switch here to clean the pigment off my brush before I go into a new shade. And I'm going to be taking this matte green shade called San, and I'm going to draw this into my outer V and push it into the crease to create a little bit more of that cat eye smoky effect. So I first sort of pull it down from the outer corner, and then I turn my brush around where the pigment is, and then I push it up into the crease. I sort of connect it a little bit. Not really wing it. You could perhaps make like a super sharp wing here, but I don't like that on myself, so putting that there. And this is going to look really messy for quite a long time. And I also like to do this while my eye is open, so I can put a little bit of that green right where like the fold is, so that I really deepen that up a little bit more. Now, and this looks quite messy, as you can see, but that's the point, sort of. I'm going to go back in with my MAC 217, and I'm going to be taking a mixture of the 2 crease shades again that I was using, and I'm going to use that to blend it out a little bit more. And now what I want to do is I want to repeat that dark green shade on my lower lash line. So I'm going to be taking my smudger brush from Sephora, and with that shade I'm just going to run that underneath my eye, just a little bit on the outer third. So now that I have the general shape sort of set up and ready to go, it's time to decide what I want to put on my lid, and I'm not sure. I think I actually want to mix these two shimmers a little bit. So I think I want to go in with Chaga, which is that bronzy with a hint of green, and put that all over the lid. I think that might be pretty. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I make sure to overlap a little bit, but not go all the way into the outer corner, so that stays the darkest bit of my lid. But I just tried to sort of push that shimmer on there. And now, because I love the shade so much, the Coral shade, that light shimmer, I want to dab that onto the center of my lid. Now, I think I want to keep the look quite green looking, but I think I want to put this shimmer kubja onto the lower lash line. And now for a bit of a funky touch, I thought I could use this bright green shade. This is Tootsie, and sort of use that to blow out the lower lash line a bit. Then you get a little bit more brown up top, and then the lower lash line is a bit more green. And I also want to use this like almost acid yellow green chartreuse kind of shade called Masai, and I would like to use that in my inner corner. There's already a lot of shimmer going on the lid here, so I don't want to add more shimmer because I don't want anything to take away from that shimmer on the lid. All right, so that would be a finished look for me anyways. Of course you could take this further, apply wing liner or like a darker eyeshadow to create a bit more of a lined effect, but I find that closes my eyes in too much. And this is one of those techniques that I love to use, and this is one of the oldest techniques that I still use on the regular. This is something I can whip on quite quickly. So I'll just apply mascara and then I'll round off the video. So that means we have come to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked this video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more by me. I definitely plan on doing more of these videos in the future, so I hope you would like to stay tuned. I upload 3 times a week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, 5 a.m. Central European Time. For now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!